Some people never raise their voice. They lower yours. That is how control often enters your life. Not with force, with confusion, with pressure that feels almost polite. You have felt it before. The conversation ends and somehow you are the one apologizing. The request sounded small, but the cost kept growing. The charm looked warm, but your instincts stayed cold. That is the territory of the master manipulator. And once you can name the pattern, you stop feeding it. By the end, you will spot 8 red flags earlier and answer them without losing yourself. Start here. When clarity drops and self-doubt rises, slow the interaction down, because the move most people miss is manufactured uncertainty. A master manipulator rarely begins with obvious cruelty. They begin with pressure that feels personal, flattering, urgent, or strangely hard to refuse. They study what matters to you first. Then they lean on your empathy, your patience, your fairness, and your fear of conflict. That is why smart people get trapped too. Intelligence does not cancel pressure when the pressure is emotional and constant. Here is what is really happening. They are testing how much distortion you will tolerate before you protect your peace. You do not need to diagnose anyone. You only need to notice patterns and defend your time, energy, attention, and boundaries. The first red flag is speed. A manipulator often tries to rush trust, intimacy, agreement, or commitment before your judgment has time to catch up. They tell you are different. They say they have never opened up like this before. They create the feeling of a rare connection, then use that feeling to push faster decisions. This works because quick closeness feels meaningful. Your brain reads intensity as honesty, even when consistency has not been proven. Watch for sudden urgency around loyalty. Healthy trust grows in daylight. Manipulation demands an answer before sunrise. A new friend pushes for private details on day 1. A date talks about forever before learning your values. A boss praises your talent, then pressures you to take on unpaid favors immediately because you are not like everyone else. The defense is simple and powerful. Keep your original pace even when the other person acts disappointed. Say, I do not make fast decisions, and let silence do its job. A respectful person adjusts to your timing. A manipulator treats your pacing like rejection because speed was part of the strategy. Watch for this. The people who deserve access do not need to ambush your nervous system to get it, and the next sign often hides behind a polished smile. The second red flag is a split between public charm and private disrespect. Some manipulators build a beautiful image in front of others, then become dismissive, cold, mocking, or entitled in private. That split is not random. It protects them. If everyone else sees a generous, confident, thoughtful person, you begin to doubt your own private experience. You start thinking maybe you are tired, sensitive, dramatic, or impossible to satisfy. That self-doubt becomes their cover. In public, they compliment you. In private, they belittle your memory, your appearance, your ambition, or your standards. They may act patient around strangers, then punish you later for saying something small that bruised their image. Here is the reframe most people need. Do not judge the relationship by their performance. Judge it by your recovery time after contact. If you feel drained, tense, careful, or smaller after regular interactions, that information matters. Healthy people are not perfect, but their kindness does not vanish when the audience leaves. The defense here is to trust repeated contrast. Track behavior across settings instead of arguing over their reputation. When someone needs witnesses to act decent, the witness may be the real relationship. The third red flag is reality twisting. A master manipulator rarely starts with outrageous lies. They start by editing small facts with complete confidence. That is not what I said. You are remembering it wrong. You always take things the wrong way. Those lines work because memory is imperfect and calm certainty is persuasive when you are already emotionally activated. Little by little, they move the floor under your feet. Then they criticize you for stumbling. The goal is not just to win one argument. The goal is to make you stop trusting your own reading. When that happens, you begin handing them the power to define what happened, what was meant, and what is reasonable. So here is how you take your power back. Capture details while they are fresh. Save messages when something important is being negotiated. Write dates, promises, and key phrases after loaded conversations. Then respond once with clean facts. Do not volunteer 1,000 words to defend what you already know. You can say, "That is not how I remember it, and I am not going in circles about it." If clarity threatens them, they will often escalate. That escalation is data. There is one mistake many people make here. They think more explaining will create honesty in someone invested in distortion. Usually, it only gives the distortion more material to work with. The fourth red flag is weaponized guilt. Manipulators love turning your conscience into a leash. They remind you what they sacrificed, how stressed they are, how much they did for you, or how badly your boundary hurts them. Notice the trick. Your decision stops being about what is healthy and starts becoming a test of whether you are good. That is why guilt pressure lands so hard on caring people. You do not want to be cruel, selfish, or cold. A parent says, "After everything I have done, this is how you repay me." A partner says, "I guess I just matter less." A friend says, "Forget it, I will handle it alone," hoping you chase them and surrender your original limit. The defense is not becoming heartless. It is learning that empathy and compliance are not the same thing. You can care about someone's feelings without making those feelings the boss of your decisions. Try this line: "I hear that you are upset. My answer is still no." That sentence is calm, respectful, and incredibly revealing. Healthy people may dislike your boundary, but they still recognize it. Manipulators treat your boundary like disobedience. If you have caught yourself doing this, you are not alone. Tell me below. The fifth red flag is inconsistency that keeps you chasing. This one is powerful because it often feels like chemistry, fate, or a rough patch when it is really conditioning. One day they are warm, attentive, validating, and generous. The next day they are distant, critical, unreachable, or strangely withholding. Then, just when you are about to pull back, the warmth returns. That cycle creates a reward pattern your brain can get addicted to. You stop pursuing stability and start pursuing relief. Now you are not asking, "Is this healthy?" You are asking, "How do I get the good version back?" That question is the trap. A manager alternates praise and coldness, and you work twice as hard for the next scrap of approval. A romantic partner disappears after conflict, then returns loving and intense, making the reunion feel like proof instead of bait. Here is the sharper truth. Confusion is not chemistry, and relief is not trust. The defense is to judge the pattern by its average, not its peaks. Do not build a future on someone's best day. Build your judgment on their repeated baseline. If respect arrives only after you start leaving, it is not secure attachment. It is strategic access management. Watch for this. The most dangerous reward is the one that teaches you to betray your own standard for one more hit of hope. The sixth red flag is baiting your reaction. A manipulator may provoke, needle, mock, interrupt, dismiss, or subtly disrespect you until you finally react. Then they point at your reaction as if it appeared out of nowhere. Now the conversation is no longer about what they did. It is about your tone, your anger, your sensitivity, your instability. This is how they reverse the spotlight. They light the fire, then act shocked that there is smoke. It happens in meetings, family dinners, group chats, relationships, and even polite social settings. They say the cruel things softly. They hide the jab inside a joke. They interrupt, then accuse you of being intense. Your best defense is emotional pacing. Do not give them a dramatic scene if a clear sentence will expose the move. Say, "That comment was unnecessary," or "You keep changing the subject," or "We can continue when this is respectful." Name the behavior, not the personality. Clear language protects you better than theatrical outrage. And if they keep pushing, step out instead of stepping deeper. Leaving a trap is not weakness. Refusing the script is strength. The seventh red flag is isolation disguised as care. Master manipulators do not always tell you to cut people off directly. Often, they make your other relationships feel unsafe, exhausting, or disloyal. They question your friends' motives. They roll their eyes at your family. They act wounded when you spend time elsewhere. The message is subtle but constant. Your world should get smaller, and they should sit at the center. At first, it can feel like closeness. It can feel like being chosen. But watch the pattern. Their influence grows while your outside perspective disappears. You stop sharing details because you are tired of defending every connection. You cancel plans to keep the peace. You begin living inside one person's version of reality, and that is where control becomes easier. The defense is to protect your mirrors. Keep at least a few honest people, routines, and spaces that exist outside the manipulator's reach. Talk things through with someone grounded who is not impressed by charm and not threatened by truth. Aware people compare notes before they commit. Manipulators prefer private stages because private stages are easier to direct, and the final sign often looks small enough to excuse. The eighth red flag is constant boundary testing by inches. This is the tell that gives many manipulators away fastest, because it shows intention without needing a confession. They show up late and act like your time is flexible. They read over your shoulder. They push one more question after you say stop. They tease a sore subject, borrow without asking, pressure for access, or keep negotiating after your answer is already no. Each incident is tiny enough to dismiss. That is exactly why it works. If you let the small disrespect slide, they learn how expensive your peace has to become before you protect it. Boundary testing is not always about the thing itself. Often, it is about measuring your resistance. Will you correct them? Will you go quiet? Will you laugh off discomfort to avoid awkwardness? So answer early, small, and calm. No, that does not work for me. I'm not available for that. Do not speak to me that way. You do not need a courtroom speech to defend a simple limit. Healthy people adjust when the boundary is clear. Manipulators treat clarity like a challenge, and if they punish you for a reasonable limit, the limit is doing its job. Here is what ties all 8 red flags together. A master manipulator attacks clarity before they attack freedom. They rush your pace, split their image, twist reality, weaponize guilt, condition you with inconsistency, bait reactions, isolate your support, and test your edges. Different tactics, same destination, less trust in yourself, more control for them. That is why the strongest defense is not a perfect comeback. It is a stable internal process. Slow things down. Notice what repeats. Write things down. Keep your outside perspective. Answer once. Exit loops. You do not need perfect proof to reduce someone's access to you. You are allowed to pause a decision, end a call, leave a room, stop replying, or refuse the role they keep casting you in. The aware version of you is not colder. The aware version of you is harder to confuse. And once confusion stops working, many manipulators lose interest because influence without easy access is expensive. If this sharpens your radar, subscribe to Onyx Mind. There is a lot more to uncover, and we keep it practical, calm, and built for self-protection. If one part of this hit hard, replay it with your own life in mind and notice which pattern appears most often. Then take one action today that makes access to you a little more earned. And if you want to keep building that awareness, stay with the next video, because the moment you can name the pattern, you are already much harder to control.